Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Spotter. Today we've got a solo session, so I'm back to my roots now. I haven't been doing this ages, but I feel like the previous few episodes have been they definitely have. They've been focused on guest after guest after guest, which is great. I want that, but it's nice to bring it back and do something to remember why I started this, which is obviously to help people first and foremost, but to draw upon experiences myself. And I thought a good way of doing that would be to open up a Q&A space. So I submitted the question box a few weeks back. So I had a little break last week to let the episodes breathe. Because again, I want to churn these out week on week, but equally I need the people on. I want to get good guests on that I think can really delve into their personal experiences as well to help people. But it's a fine line. I don't want to just reach out and be like, come on, talk about your problems and issues in life. Like, do what I did. It's a difficult one because you want to strike the right balance of, I want to help you, but I also want to help other people, in a way which is transferable. We do something on the podcast, we talk, we open up the space, and then it leads someone on to make change, to speak to someone, to go and do a deep dive and, think about themselves, their own situations, and actually be able to relate to what we're doing, what we're talking about in this podcast as well. I'm switching between actually looking at the camera and looking at the screen here. So sorry if I do that, but again, it's authentic. I'm not going to cut any of this out because this is what people want to see. I hope, me being weird, obviously. So see, I've got this to look back on in future, haven't I? Like, one day be like, yeah, look how I made it. This is how we started. So yeah, heard it here first. Made it is the term. So yeah, I opened up the questions box, and I'm going to do this a few more times, I think, because I actually had a really good response on this. So I've got the questions on the screen now, and it was very much I wanted to get a mixture of, basically a feel of what people wanted to ask me. And then when I do this again, I'd like to do one with me and Abby. I think that'd be a good one to talk about, the dynamics of a relationship, is what you see on the surface, everything. We live in a world now where everyone seems to be using social media for really forms of validation as well, I think, because why would we, it's all well and good people saying, and I've done this before, but, you say, oh, I'm just using it as a way of logging my life, like logging the journey, looking back on this in future. But realistically, I think a lot of us do it because there are underlying things where we aren't confident. We do thrive off a bit of maybe attention. People saying, where you're going looks great, food looks great. Can we take it back actually to the days where Facebook was just to share about how your dinner was last night? I think it'd be much more simple. So yeah, I feel like there's underlying, like, I don't know, like validation themes there as well. It's a shame that we've got to that point. I'm a victim of it. I'm sorry, not a victim of it. I do it, and I'll admit to that. But yeah, there was a time when I think Instagram just started as a way of just sharing your photos and edits and things like that. But yeah, it is what it is. So I hope that these questions provide a little bit more insight into me, my journey, and what I intend to do. This might be a part 1, part 2 Q&A episode if we delve into sort of like things that lead us into like a 30-minute plus. So I might split this into 2 more digestible ones. So yeah, we'll see where it goes. But to start, we have got a fair few questions here from Instagram, and I've got a couple more as well. But I was debating on doing the names to call out, but I might not. I might just go through the questions, and if it's yours, because I feel like I want to keep these private as to who's asking me these. But obviously, for those that have asked me questions, if you feel like you want me to, drop your Instagram handle and things like that, let me know. But I want to keep this private just in case you don't want to know, you don't want people knowing you've asked this. So directly on Instagram, I had let's start with any regrets. Here's one. Any regrets? Yes, I do. And also, this isn't rehearsed. I haven't looked at these other than to be like, how many have I got? I'm going to try and do all of these organically. So this might go to shit, but I think this is why I started the podcast. You want to see the authentic me. Also, I hope everyone likes the improved backdrop here. I'm not going to be in this location forever, but obviously as a starting point, I'm trying to make it as warm and comfortable as possible for people watching. And I quite like it. So they're my bodybuilding medals up there. I've got certificates up here as well. And then my trophies are up there. Sorry, I'm trying to do that. But yeah. So any regrets in life? I do have regrets. but not a lot though. I think I've come to a point in life where I think that everything that I've been through, said, done, has got me to where I am today. I think my biggest regret. I'm not cutting these out. My biggest regret would be how willing I've been to give to other people, not knowing maybe their intentions or not knowing like how they were as a person. I feel like I'm an oversharer, I'm a giver, and I think I do it too much to the detriment of myself, my own mental health, and I suffer. I really do. And it's a shame I have to call this a regret. And I know that's a little bit wishy-washy. I think it's I know you're probably wanting some more like, examples of like, oh, I did this on this date. Like I said this to this person. I don't really have that. I can't think of anything that stands out as I wish I never did that. I think my biggest regret is that I wish I'd held and preserved my energy to myself more and ensured that I gave it just to the people that mattered and that gave back to me. Because in recent years, I feel like I've given off a lot and I continue to do it. I really do. I really continue to do it. And I can't seem to stop. I don't know how I'm going to get around it. But I give off so much to other people and then I feel drained and question why I feel low, sad, sometimes depressed as to why I don't get the same treatment back. I think I see the world in a certain way and I expect people to see it the same way as I do. So yeah, I'd say that's my biggest regret, giving too much to people that didn't deserve it. I think, yeah, that's it. That would be the biggest regret. Sorry if you wanted more examples, but that's kind of like, I think that's been a theme anyway for these podcasts. You people are starting to see with me that I do see myself as a people pleaser. I do see myself as an oversharer, a giver. But yeah, another one. What do you think your purpose in life is? Love this one. I don't know. I'm starting to understand myself more and more as I do things in life, as I get older. I'm 27 now. I've seen a fair chunk of life, I'd say, in that first portion. I've seen a lot. I've been through a lot. My family's been through a lot. I've grown through these situations. I think that everything I've been through and the person I'm growing into is a representation of that, obviously. And I think it's becoming evident to me that my purpose is to help people. I know that sounds a little bit more of a, again, generalization. Yeah, if you want to be specific, I think my purpose from a career perspective is to be a coach, whether that's just PT, online, or a mixture of both. I love training. I love bodybuilding. I love health and fitness. I love getting people to enjoy training. I'm not a coach yet. Well, I am and I'm not. Like from an online perspective, I'm starting that journey. From a PT side of things, not just yet, will be soon. I'm actually really enjoying the content I'm learning on that, by the way. I think that's my career purpose, is to get people in shape, to build better habits, to let them find the love that I have for training. Or maybe not just me, sorry, try and find that love that I have in some way, similar to them, but build that love for something. I think that's my passion, to get, to motivate people. I think my purpose is to help people in that regard from a career perspective. In general, like my life purpose, I do think it's just to help people in general. I think it's, doing the podcast, speaking, helping through talking to people. I'm a big empath. I seem to get a lot of people gravitating towards me in social situations. I'm a social being. Like, put me in, I always say that I get nervous and anxiety before seeing people, but you put me in a social crowd, like a big environment, and I'll thrive. I will somehow get people talking. I'll provide energy. I'll get a bit of a buzz going. I'll get a few laughs. But I'll also be able to delve into real deep topics with people, and also like bring conversations out of them that they probably didn't anticipate having. I think it is just to help people. I get kicks out of helping people. I get kicks out of people messaging me saying, thank you for that. You've really helped me. The podcast is amazing. You've allowed me, X, Y, and Z to do this. Thanks for your help in the gym today. Thanks for being a real motivating figure. Do you know what I mean? So I'm seeing it more and more now that I just like to maybe it's like I like to fix people. I don't know. But yeah, it's to help people in life. And I think through means of the podcast, I found my passion project. The mission with the spotter is to do just that. It's to spot people through life. To spot that. The tagline when I started this was spotting people through life one rep at a time, or let's unwrap this crazy life together. Like, I think that, life is just insane. Everyone goes through so much. We don't get time to breathe. We don't get time to talk to one another. And I think that men especially are going through life without tapping into these deep conversations and things that are going on in their lives. And they're holding so much in. I've done it. I've been a victim of the other side of it. It's led me to counseling. And now I'm, an emotional oversharer. I feel when other people share their stories, I cry. I watch films and I cry easily. Music makes me cry. Like, I don't know, I've got this real true sense of self. And I think that people see that when they can hear it with me when I talk to them as well. So yeah, that's my purpose. I hope that answered it. Like, I know this is what I tend to do. I'll beef things up, but down to its core, it's to help people in life. And I think we're doing that through the means of the podcast and through starting my coaching journey. So that's that. That's my purpose. That's Jake's purpose. It's not to be a Met Police officer, which I thought it was when I was a kid. Who knows? Maybe I'll change one day. What have we got? How would you define success? How would I define success? I think from a personal perspective, I would define success as probably looking back on my life and seeing a legacy of he allowed people or provided a space for people to feel comfortable and heard. I like to talk to people. I don't know how you'd measure it per se, because obviously we wouldn't do it through a sense of, talking to X amount of people on the podcast. I've helped these, I'm not like a psychologist or anything like that, but defining success, that's a difficult one because it's very subjective. Okay, on the coaching side of things, it's getting X amounts of transformations. But again, a transformation is more than just a before and after photo, isn't it? It's what goes into the behind the scenes. It's the habits. It's the talks. It's the difficult situations with what's going on in their personal lives and how they manage training, nutrition, things like that. So there's a lot to that. But defining success, I think from my personal success story would be, I look back on my life and it's full of, do you know what, this is it. A successful life for me is one full of meaningful relationships. That's it. That's it for me. I need meaningful relationships with people. Don't care about money. I do, but not like on the scale of relationships. Sadly, we need money to function in this crazy world, but meaningful relationships are what really brings me to life. That's successful to me. Having people that are close to me that I can call my close friends, having conversations with people where I know that I left a mark on them in a good way. We go away feeling like, that was a meaningful conversation. So yeah, success for me is a life full of meaningful relationships. That's it. And a legacy of helping people. If I can look back and be like, do you know what? I was true to myself. I did everything that I set out to do was from the heart. That would be a successful life for me. I'd be intrigued to see, for the individual that asked me this, I'd love to know what you would define as success as well. So please do. You can either comment back or message me. I'd love to know that as well. Again, it's going to be very person dependent, isn't it? So yeah, so that's my successful life. Anyway, let's go on to the next one. We've got, if you could change, I love this. If you could change one thing about yourself, let me get the list out. I've been thinking about this for years. Mates, if you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be? Just one. There's plenty. Now, for real. First off would be my nose. Right, here's a story. When I was younger, I hated my nose. Do you know what? If any of my close friends are listening to this, fuck you. No, it was my nose. When I was younger, I was like, when I grow up, I'm having a nose job. I can't stand my nose. It's too big. It stands out. And my dad used to say to me, this is a ridiculous joke. He used to say, Jake, it's a Roman nose. And I said, why is it a Roman nose? He said, it's Roman all over your face. So thanks for that, mate. He had a massive nose as well. So you won't get off on that slightly, mate. Like, it was huge. So I've picked that up off of him. But yeah, I think it's in proportion to my face. But yeah, when I was younger, it was that. If I could change one thing about myself, it would be I'd almost call it, I don't know if it's like chronic, like would be the correct term, but it's overthinking all the time. I was talking to someone in the gym about this the other day, and I cannot switch my brain off. I cannot. And obviously I don't want to switch it off because I wouldn't be here, but I struggle so much with creating scenarios in my head about conversations I've had in the day, conversations I had a week ago, a month ago, 3 months ago. I cannot forget anything, pretty much anything. If I've had ever any awkward encounter with someone and I've overthought something I've said or I didn't get a response I thought I'd get, that stays with me. And I will never, I'll keep thinking back to that, like, oh my God, what if I said this differently? It could have been a different outcome, or maybe they think this of me. My overthinking, honestly, it kills me sometimes. Like it's constant. I cannot switch my head off. And I really wish that I could just, be content with my decisions, accept that I'm going to fail in some regard, and I will learn from those situations. I'm not going to be able to please everyone. I might say something that pisses someone off, but I need to accept that if I'm genuine and what I say, what I do is, it's me, that should be enough. That shouldn't allow me then to go away, or shouldn't enable me then to go away and start pondering about what's going to happen. What would, if I said something in another way, would things be different? What is that person going to think of me? Overthinking is horrendous. So yeah, if anyone else out there struggles with it, then I honestly, I feel for you. It really is. It's like the bane of my life. I've struggled with anxiety. I've struggled with, like minor depression, loneliness, but the overthinking and panic attacks as well for that matter. But I would say not loneliness, the overthinking has been the biggest. It's the biggest barrier and blocker in my life. I cannot stand it, and I cannot stand the hold it has over me. So yeah, that would be my one thing to change. But trust me, there's been a list collated over many years of things that I used to hate about myself and thought that I needed to improve, get rid of, stop. Yeah, I used to think that, besides overthinking and overdoing it, I used to be very over the top. I would be very, I don't know. I feel like I'd be quite over the top around people. I felt like I would have to, as we know, like I said about being a people pleaser as well. But I don't think that's necessarily something I'd want to change, because at my core, the reason I am, it comes from situations of separation between mum and dad, and seeing conflict all the time. So in my heart, I'm trying to do things to ensure people are happy. But what I need to do is I need to balance it in the way that accepting that sometimes I can't be the person that has a solution all the time. I can't be the person to fix situations all the time. I don't have the key to everything. I need to accept that and know that as long as I do enough in my own life and the thing that, make sure that I'm happy as the first person pleased, and, my nearest and dearest around me, that's enough to satisfy me, not having to do it for everybody in my life. And I have to accept that some people just won't like me, and that's something I still can't seem to accept. I pretend sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm not bothered by this, but I am deep down, I really am. And I cannot stand the thought of people disliking me. I don't know why. I really don't know why. But the overthinking is the biggest thing I'd want to change. That'd be a takeaway. What would again, directing at you that was asked me, that's very in your face, that, wasn't it? What would be the thing that you would want to change? Let me know. Send me a message. So yeah, next one. These are two big ones. I'm going to go for the most difficult one first for me. Oh no, they're both difficult. Right. What are 3 pieces of key life advice you wish you knew 5 years ago? The Jake of 5 years ago, where were we? We were in COVID. I don't know if there's 3 pieces, to be honest with you, because I don't know if I've had lots of life advice directly, if that makes sense. I'm going to try and think about what's happened in those 5 years. Actually, do you know what? Here's a big one. And I think the person that's asked me this, you'll appreciate this, hearing this from me. It's that it's okay. And it's hard saying this as well, because it does affect me sometimes. It's okay to lose people in life, throughout the journey. Because, this isn't technically advice that's been given to me. This is like what I'm forming. But it's okay to lose people in life throughout the journey, because sometimes they are just there for that part of the journey in your life. Like there was a need for that relationship, whether it was born out of meeting in a certain way and then it's come to a natural end. You have to try and accept that sometimes people aren't meant to be in your life, and that is okay. And that I shouldn't feel the need to hold on to every single relationship and give to everyone all the time, give to people, give to situations, relationships, and not get it in return. Like I have to accept that I'm people are going to come and go. That's fine, and it's okay. It's allowed to happen, because sometimes it just does. Sometimes people are, and people in relationships are meant to, be a part of a certain part on your journey, a part of a segment of your life, and that's okay. So I think the individual that's asked me this will appreciate me saying that out loud. Anything else? It's okay to be disliked, even though I struggle with it. Over the last 5 years, I've probably gone in. I've been quite true and authentic. I've been bodybuilding for years now. I've been coached for years. I've been in a career growing. I've realized throughout that period that I wanted to become a PT and a coach. So I'm working towards that now, transitioning. And now I'm starting the podcast finally after, donkey's years. I wanted to do something in lockdown and I still didn't. But throughout that period, I don't think I've done anything necessarily to piss people off, like directly. I haven't done anything with the intention of like, I want to do that to, F with people. I want to do that to piss people off. I want to do, I'm going to say that because it's controversial. I've never done that. Like I've always been true and authentic, but I'm aware that some people just won't like me for the way I do things, the way I conduct myself, my actions, what I want out of life. And that's okay. I have to accept that. You can be disliked because you're not likable to everyone. So, that's fine. I just need to try and accept that. And key pieces of life. I don't even know if these are like life advice. So sorry if I'm trying to do this or, organically as I'm reading these. I think that the last piece of advice is very difficult. I actually don't know if there is. I don't think there's another piece of advice. Maybe, for me, it's like, it's okay to be disliked and that people will come and go out of your life, and that's okay. Some people are meant to be on board for certain parts of the journey and then they get off. So I would say there's 2 pieces of key life advice for me personally. I'm trying to think if there's anything around my emotional state, my relationship. I don't know. Like, I don't think there is. So there's 2. I haven't got a third piece. So sorry. But again, the person that's asked me this, I'm intrigued. Do you think that there is something else that I should have said that you think I was going to say, you thought I was going to say? Because for me, those are the 2 genuine pieces of advice that I would give myself looking back. So yeah, there we go. So next one. What is the most valuable life lesson you've learned? These are really deep. I appreciate these, but these are hard to answer when you're first reading out, and not, because I said to myself, I'm not going to pre-rehearse answers because this has to be genuine. Genuine Jake. The most valuable life lesson you've learned is that life lesson. Failure is not, I'd say it's to do with failure, because I'm so frightened of failing with everything I do and don't do. Like, even in my career that I've been in for, 8 years now, grown, worked up to a senior position. I did my apprenticeship, started the degree course, left that because I didn't want to do the rest of it. It wasn't relevant to me. I've just grown organically. I've done loads of positions, and I'm in a good position, And even with that, I still feel, like I still feel like, I don't want to fail. I don't want to do something that's going to cause, I don't know, me to question myself. I would probably say that. So that's something comfortable, So with taking the steps with the podcast, I was worried. I was creating this scenarios in my head about what was going to happen, what were people going to think, what was circles going to say, what was the gossip going to be, because I'm sure people out there, like, everyone loves to talk about things. And I always think about these things. I'm like, okay, well, don't bother them, because that's probably going to happen if you do this. It's like, if this, that, if this, then. That's what goes on in my head all the time. But everything I'm about to say, everything I'm about to do, taking the step with coaching, you're not good enough. You don't know your shit. You haven't done this long enough. There's no point. You're not going to be able to help people. It's crazy. Like, I know I can help people. Like, deep down in my heart, I know I can. So I would say that it's the key life lesson would be that failure isn't something to be frightened of. It's to be welcomed, because it's an opportunity to learn. And failure is also subjective in the way of, what do you define failure as? If you take a step and it doesn't work, you just take a step backwards, start again. Like, if this podcast didn't work, I'm 14, 13, 15 episodes in now. If it didn't work, I probably would have seen that it wouldn't have worked so far. But ultimately, people are, loving it. I'm getting good responses. I'm getting people on. I'm loving doing it. So that's the most important thing. Like I said, as much as I wanted to help people, for me, this was a dive into, I want to talk. I want to talk about things that, I feel passionate about, and I feel like can start to help other people, start conversations, get people talking, spot people in life rather than just in the gym. That's my whole thought process behind this. I have so many conversations in the gym with people, and I was like, let's have these online. Let's have these on the podcast and talk about these valuable things. But if it didn't work, I'd just start something else. But ultimately it will work, because I know deep down, if I'm doing something that means a lot to me and it takes a lot for me to do, I'm stepping outside my comfort zone. It's like a thing in my head. I'm like, well, you're either going to make it, or it wasn't meant to be in the first place. So you have no choice but to put your all into it. And with everything I do in life, it's 100% or nothing. So yeah, failure is not to be frightened of. It's to be welcomed. Welcome failure into life. Learn from these situations. Learn from getting uncomfortable. Learn from failing. Learn from taking steps that don't work. Learn from conversations that don't work. Relationships that don't work. I think that it applies to almost every step you take in life. So that would be the valuable life lesson I've learned, because through these situations, the podcast, taking my steps of taking clients on, working my way up in my career, basically having a relationship with Abby, having difficult conversations with parents, my dad namely, and he's not here to, carry those difficult conversations on. You take steps, you do things that make you uncomfortable, you learn from them. You might fail sometimes, you might make cock-ups, you might say something you wish you hadn't have said, you learn from it. And realistically, I was going to say it's a big old life, but it's, in the grand scheme of things, it's short. It is. Time goes quickly. If we sit here and question everything we've done, what could have been, you're never going to make any more progress in life. So welcome failure, learn from it, move on. That's it. That would be it. So yeah, we're going to move on to some other questions now. We've got one that was actually submitted to me very recently, so I want to see what this is. So this is a good one. How do you manage discipline? Well, And then it goes on to say, is there a certain thought process you focus on, or do you have a routine, in quotes, for times when you're not feeling so focused? Okay, so discipline in itself comes from doing, and doing a lot of, knowing that what you're doing is the right thing to do. It means a lot to you, and you wouldn't be the same individual without it. That's how I perceive it. Okay, so for example, with training 4 or 5 days a week, they're non-negotiables for me, because I started a journey through pain and wanting an escape. I saw what it did for me. The passion grew from that, and through passion came habit, routine, and then the discipline comes, because you realize if you take those days off, and it's all cliche, we hear like, oh, don't take those days off, and that, it's all relative. If you need rest, recovery, deloads, all that situation, that's a separate conversation. But when it comes to actually doing the do, showing up every day, you just fucking do it. Because I cannot stand, and I don't, if this offends anyone, then fair enough. I don't mean it in that way. I don't like complaining. It really drains my energy. I can't be around it that often. I could juggle with like difficulties. I understand that people have difficulties, concerns, issues, but the act of constant complaining to me screams, well, why are you doing this in the first place? Why are you pursuing that? Why are you even talking about it? Do something about it then. Discipline for me is I do this because I need it to function. Okay. Well, I'm disciplined with my meals being laid out throughout the day, because I know that if I miss a meal at a certain time, then I've buggered my schedule up. I'm disciplined with my work times because I need to get my work in, because then it allows me to train at a certain time. I can get my walks in at a certain time. I wake up early every day so I can get out for a walk, because then regardless of what happens in the day, I've got some activity done first thing in the morning before I start work. So it's a non-negotiable for me. I know I feel good after, and I know that it's just something that it has to happen for my lifestyle. It's a non-negotiable for me. It's discipline. Things like messaging my partner, saying certain things to my mum, speak to my mum every day, like trying to get my mum out for a walk. I think it applies to everything. But yeah, discipline for me, it's a difficult one. I've never really found. I've had waves or like peaks and troughs of like motivation. As we know, that whole age-old argument of motivation versus discipline. You're not always motivated, and you never will be. Like it comes in waves. You'll have weeks of feeling, high as a kite on top of the world, that you can do anything, workhorse. You feel like, anything were to be chucked on your desk, whatever, you'd be able to do it. And then you have weeks where you just want to curl up into a ball and shut yourself off from the world. That happens to me a lot. I have these like weeks where I want to be so sociable, I want to go out and do things, and then weeks where I just want to be quiet. I don't want to talk to anyone. And it just hits you. But with the gym, I have sessions. I've training days where I'm at the gym and I'm like, I just want to go home. I'm not enjoying this. I'm not in the right headspace for it. But then you get through it. You feel better because you've done it. You've ticked that part of your day off. You get home, wake up the next day, and hopefully you're in a better mood. You're in a better headspace, and you can tackle the day again. So discipline for me is, I don't have a thought process behind it. It's I structure my weeks, my days, whatever, in a routined way, because I know that if I didn't, it would make things more difficult for me. So I think if you have something you claim to be so passionate about, or you want to make change in your life, I think you need to look at your setup and be completely honest with yourself and be like, right, what time can I give? What can I give back from my schedule? And then whatever you're dealing with, map out the clear times that, let's say, take training, for example. If you can only train 3 days a week, but then you realize, actually, I need some time with my partner on X day. Okay, so let's say it's 2 days a week. 2 days is better than nothing. So if you map out those times you can train, and then initially start with 30 minutes, if you do a 30-minute home workout, go for a run, high speed walk, or you've got some equipment at home, do a home workout. There's plenty of resources online. You literally go on YouTube and find home workouts online if you just want to feel better about yourself. And I said, feel better about yourself, get yourself in shape, make good changes. So there's things you can do there. But then in order to stick to that, you have to almost, I think you have to just take out it's almost like a virtual, like an in-person contract with yourself and be like, look, if I'm going to make change that I claim to want, you have to be honest with yourself. I feel like you will stick with it. It will be difficult, but once you start seeing results in the way of feel-good factor, people saying things to you, I'm noticing this in you, you look, X, Y, and Z, you seem, you sound, you start seeing results, the body's feeling better, not just the mind. It becomes less of a task week on week because, it's built in, it's starting to get ingrained into your routine. I think if you don't have a routine week and things are a little bit free for all, it becomes so difficult because you're not strict with yourself. You have to take out these almost like contracts with yourself, being like, I'm going to give this for X amount of time, and I want to make sure that at the end of it, I'm feeling like this. And, if you come to the end of it, you're like, okay, we're going to renew that contract, and you're going to carry on for, another 6 months, another 2 years, and then you're just carrying on. But for me, I've never struggled with discipline because I thrive off of routine. I thrive off of structure in my life. And I've had to through years of like uncertainty with mum, dad, like instability in my life. I've had to structure my days so that I can get things in, so that I actually have time for myself, because hospital trips constantly, and it's, you can't be this person that's like, I'm not going to do this because I've got my training all the time. It's like, it's all well and good being like that, but like when family instances come up, family takes precedence always, for me anyway. My nearest and dearest, because life's short. My loved ones will always come first because they are what bring me happiness, deep down. So then you just have to work around it. But then if that's the case, I almost have with me, and when I was going through my difficult stages in life, I would have almost like different structures for when shit hit the fan. I'd be like, okay, cool. So I can't go about my normal week because of this instance. But what can I do? Okay, I can do that time instead. So it means I need to do this the next day, and then everything else shifts ahead. That gets moved to that day. Cool. That's routine 2. Okay, but I can't do that one because of this. All right, there's routine 3. I would literally make different sets of routines for different scenarios. Sounds overkill, but trust me, if you're on shift work, your family's a bit up in the air, you've got lots of things on the go, sadly, maybe there's a lot of things going on, like hospital trips and stuff like that, or you travel a lot for work. I think you need to put in place different routines and structures based on your life, and almost deploy them at times you need them. But then also deep down, don't get hard on yourself. Like, it's all well and good being like, I'm disciplined, you need to be disciplined. Like, everyone's different. Find routines, habits that work for you, and get people to keep you accountable. Use things like calendars to keep you accountable, like schedule your times in, schedule times for free time, schedule times for speaking to people if you realize you need to reply to people. Put in workout times. You don't need hours on end for working out. 30 minutes is better than nothing. Even if you go out for a couple of 10, 15-minute walks a day, that's going to do more for you than doing nothing. So start small, accumulate over time. You'll see how you feel. You'll see how things are moving. Assess it. Look at routines that you need to deploy for your life based on your life setup. And yeah, just be aware of yourself and aware of your priorities. Because ultimately, if you want something, you want change, you want a difference in life, I think that the why has to be strong enough to keep you on that course. And my why is, I said this, I want to get a natural pro card in bodybuilding. So that's, it keeps me training, it keeps me training with bodybuilding in sight. And my why for training in general is what pulled me out of darkness. And it was bodybuilding. This is what I enjoy doing. I love training. I love challenging myself. I love pushing myself. I love training to failure. I like waking up the next day being like, I get to do this all over again, see how far I can push myself. So my 2 there, I want to get a pro card in natural bodybuilding. I want to leave a legacy. I want to show others what it can do for you. I want to get other people in shape. And with that, I need to, also treat myself as an example. And what pulled me out of darkness, what saved me in life, it was training. So all of that combined is enough for me to be like, I'm sticking to this, and this is me. So I think that kind of manages manages. That kind of answers your question, mate. You said, how do you manage discipline? That's how I see it. Like, for me, it's not hard. Again, I've been doing it for so long. So you just need to start small and accumulate. So yeah, there are a couple more questions now that are slightly different. I will answer them now. And we may just have this as one straight episode, actually. We're sort of at like 40-ish minutes. So this one's slightly different compared to the deep diving ones here. To start, who's your inspirations, gym and outside of the gym? So initially, when I got into bodybuilding, it was, I'll be honest, it was my dad. I know that sounds very cliche. Dad struggled a lot in life. He struggled with careers, struggled with self-love himself, through, I think, his past parentage and, basically what the lack of love in his life. It didn't stop him pouring into me, though, in that sense, which, I'm grateful for. For all his difficulties, he was a very loving father, and I'm really appreciative of that. And he was a role model for me in many ways. Obviously, he struggled with alcohol addiction. I'm not talking about that, but that was his release in life. But he was someone that I modeled myself of as a gentleman. He taught me how to be a gentleman. He taught me very old school, unique values, which I am proud in today's I'm not even going to say it, but in today's world, it's actually quite nice to stand out as an old school gentleman. And I don't care if people don't agree with that way of living, the way of being. That's who I am. And again, I'm going to say this out loud. If it offends people, that's on you, because I like living this way, and I pride myself of having a father that taught me all of these old school values. So yeah, a true gentleman he was, and I am a model of that side of him. And he was one of my role models. He taught me to be open. He taught me to love deeply. He taught me to seek meaningful relationships. I remember when he first met Abby, and the phone call I had with him the day after, he straight away got on there. He's like, right, when are you going to marry her? Right, when are you going to marry her? You need to put a ring on her finger. She's bloody brilliant. Like that. That's how he spoke. Obviously, if I hadn't I haven't realised. And he was like, yeah, he was like, that one, she's a good one. She is. He was like, you seem very happy around her. All of this. He was just he's a big softie, my dad, deep down. Had a hard exterior, but he taught me that was okay. So yeah, I thank him a lot, and I really do. I really thank him for the good he saw in people. He would always give people second chances, and he was a big lover, So yeah, that was my biggest inspiration outside of the gym, as well as my mother. And again, you're probably like, oh, come on, it's your parents. But no, if obviously you know my story, you understand. My mother she is the prime example of strength in every way. And no, I'm not talking about a lady that can deadlift 300 kilos. That would be pretty fucking impressive, to be fair. So she has been through books worth of illness. I'm not going to list off everything now, but like to come through, well, and still live with manic depression / bipolar, to have battled with cancer twice, rediagnosis and stem cell transplant, worrying about dying, brain damage. I don't know how the woman, I don't know how she's gone through it all, to be honest with you. I don't think I would be able to. And it's easy to say that now, but yeah, I really, absolute books worth of illnesses. We always used to make jokes that she's like a walking medical book. And I actually agree with it. Like, you could write a book on her. She is the epitome of strength, and she has shown me true resilience. She has shown me throughout all love for her children, love for her family, someone that never gives up, regardless of what's thrown at her. And ever since seeing her go through chemotherapy, I said to myself, if she can go through all of this and still put a smile on her face for her children and her family, and you can do anything, genuinely. And that stuck with me. So her and my dad, genuinely, my parents are my biggest inspirations outside of the gym. I would say that. When it comes to the gym, I would say the person that got me into bodybuilding, do you know what? It's going to sound really corny and like, it was actually Steve Cook originally. Now, if any OG like YouTube watchers out there from the old fitness days, it was Steve Cook for me. He was a men's physique athlete in the early days. I loved his physique, loved watching his videos. He got me into training. My love for physique came through Steve Cook. And yeah, I was gutted when he stopped competing. I really was. I thought he had a great physique, to be fair. Not like Buendia was like the physique poster boy. But that's what got me into men's physique. And like, I was like, yeah, do you know what? I want to give this a crack. I really like that. Christian Guzman as well. Like, obviously the OG, the guy was, a pioneer of that era. And he still is. He's still leading the way when it comes to, vlogging. And Alpha Land looks incredible. So yeah, it was them. And then just because of his legacy, a Brit, the way he trained, I really resonated with Dorian Yates. Like, genuinely, I used to sit in the early days of training when I'd go really late after hospital and I just wanted to, realistically, I should have been trying to switch off. I would come back home after training and I would sit in darkness with my YouTube video on my phone, eating, obviously, chicken and rice, whatever. And I would just have his Olympia videos on repeat every day. And I'd be watching his routines. And I was obsessed with him. I watched Blood and Guts through many a times. And yeah, Dorian was like my idea of like the perfect bodybuilder. And I did then, and I sort of still do as well, like modeled the way I train off of him as well. Basic training, trying to keep things simple, execution, intensity, always failing, and then going again. I'm sure Dorian wouldn't like the fact that I train for hours on end. That's something I'm improving on or trying to. But yeah, he was my like gym inspiration for sure. Him, and then the physique boys like Steve Cook, Jeremy Buendia, and then Christian Guzman from a YouTube perspective as well. So yeah, we've got a supplements that you take. So we have got, I probably could do, when it comes to like these types of one, I would probably be best off doing a gym deep dive, like my background of training. So I might do that one in another one, if that's okay. But I'll go through the supplements I take. So I take multivits in the morning, extra vitamin D, a joint supplement, take hydration in the morning, hydration electrolytes. Take apple cider vinegar before I've eaten. Again, just gets the gut going. And then so that's in the morning. In the evenings after training, I try and take some ashwagandha. So it's almost like it like lowers anxiety, gets you into almost like a bit of a prime state, ready for sleep, calm. So I take that. It's in a lot of actually sleep products as well, like sleep stacks. So I could take one of them as well. But I just take ashwagandha on its own. Again, the second part of the joint supplement, like take one in the morning, one in the evening. And then I take magnesium in the evening as well, pre-bed, so about an hour before bed. So there's supplements I take, as well as I take a serving of whey isolate every day with my cream of rice. I guess you could call that a supplement, food, whatever. That's pretty much it, I think. Yeah, literally the supplements I take. I take pre-workouts. I say sparingly. I try and take them on a Tuesday and a Saturday or Friday, my two biggest sessions of the week. That's pretty much it. Then my subs. What's your training style and how has it adapted over time? So I used to do a lot of high volume work back in the day. I used to do like ample sets, like 6 sets of 10, 4 sets of 15, superset with like battle ropes. All of us in the gym back in the day at like the leisure centre, we would do some wacky workouts, but we kept lean, trained most days. It's probably why I didn't put on loads of size when I was younger, and then wondered why I didn't like putting on size when I got a bit older. Yeah, we did lots of high volume work, chasing pumps. Didn't worry so much about logging things, and then in came the age of like the logbook. Started to take that on, and I've been through many training partners as well. But I've always stuck with it, and just learned and adapted over time. I then moved to like powerlifting, or like learning elements of powerlifting with one of my best friends at the time. I joined another gym, and he got me looking into people like Stan Efferding, Ed Cohen, Mark Bell, and learning some techniques with him that would later benefit me in my training now when it comes to benching, squatting, things like that, cues to know, deadlifting. Deadlifts are like, I'm known in my gym. I wouldn't say I'm known in my gym, but I'm known for like my deadlift is pretty good. I'm actively trying to work towards like a 300 kg dead this year off the ground just for fun. Yeah, so no stimulus fatigue ratio, all that bollocks. Not good for bodybuilding, but who gives a crap, man? Just got to have a bit of fun with it. So yeah, did a bit of powerlifting, learned the ropes there, thought I was going to actually end up getting into powerlifting and go down that route. And then I decided to get myself a coach and go through a big bulk, and then did a cut throughout the lockdown. Come out of lockdown, did one more push up. And then after Dad died in 2021, I said to myself, like, now's the time, get into next year, first prep. But all throughout that period, then I started learning the elements of training to failure. Less is more. And that stuck with me. And then if anything, I've tried to move towards that, 4 days a week, more like, I guess more like an upper lower type split. I've done your push pull legs. I've done rolling splits. I've done specialized splits as well. I like this idea of upper lowers, or like, training when the body's recovered and going again. But I prefer split, like fixed splits as well, where you've got the same days off every week. I know it's probably not the best way of doing it, but it works for me. But yeah, training to failure now. A mixture of high volume, depending on certain. I feel like my arms, delts, they seem to respond better to a bit more work, if that makes sense. And not necessarily chasing, just chasing load. But yeah, so a bit of a mixture, but always training to failure. A little bit of like less is more now. Again, Dorian always stems through with me. I like that way of training, and I always will. So I've been through a lot of different training styles. I really have. And I'm not saying that I won't change again, but at my core, I do think that I'm a failure trainer. When I'm down and everything is going to shit, how do you stay on target and stay motivated to keep pushing towards your goals? So I've said this earlier on. It's like I remember my whys, why I got into training, the people that I've, my role models, mum, dad, what they've always instilled into me. And then the overall goal in bodybuilding, if you get my pro card, like I can't slack off. I can't take days. You can, but I try and tell myself you can't take days off. You've got to carry on. You've got to stick to your guns. Like, your competitors, people alongside you are still working towards it. So you've got, it's like cliche, but it's true. I try and instill that in my head. When I'm down, like my down days now are like, waking up and feeling a little bit disassociated with the world, with people, with situations, what I'm doing in life. I always ponder whether I'm doing the right things. And basically I just get through the day. And then if I feel the same the next day, then I tell myself, you're probably going to have to do something about it or make a change, speak to someone. Thankfully, it hasn't hit a second day. And it's usually a case of maybe has slightly poorer sleep. Maybe, I've allowed myself to pour too much into other people, and then I've taken too much on. I've been around like situations where people complaining a bit more. I've done too much of something, like I haven't stuck to, or maybe I've been out of routine ever so slightly. Like all these types of things can throw me off. So yeah, and it also, loneliness throws me off as well. And if I don't see people enough, it really throws me off. I feel very unbalanced. I feel like I need people to keep me sane as well. There's a balance with me. I need my own time, but I also need some time to thrive off of social situations. How do I stay on target? I just do. Like I've got my routine set in place. I'm structured. I know why I want to do things. I know my goals in life. And I keep reminding myself of them. I've got whiteboards up. I've got things in the background to remind me. Like my environment is centered around what I want out of life and what I need to do day to day to get there. So that's what I try and basically create an environment that keeps me grounded and reminding of what I need to do, what I want to do in life. And the people in my life also, the closest people to me, are also on a similar path. They also want things out of life. They want experiences. They want to go places. They want to try new things. They are seeking. So that's what I need to be around. Ever had any bad habits or addictions, not just drinks or drugs? Never had a drink addiction. Never had a drug addiction. I have tried things. I have tried alcohol as well. Not many things, though, to be honest with you. I won't say things on here just in case. So I haven't had any bad addictions or habits, really. Do you know what? Just to keep it really down to earth, the worst addiction for me was biting my nails. And I've just curbed it. Literally at 27, I've just curbed biting my nails. I don't know why. I think it's because I'm starting to feel a little less anxious in life. But thankfully, fingers crossed, I'm not doing it. But yeah, just give me a sec. I'm not doing it now. They are growing. There was actually a time recently when Abby said to me, they look better than hers. So I was like, there you go. So that's the only bad habit, I think, unless anyone else says otherwise, like, you liar, Jake. Tell me. Come on, bring it on. I'm ready. Bring it. So last one for today's episode. Is it your passion to always be a natural lifter? Have you ever thought about going to the enhanced side? And if so, what was the thought process and the decision? I have. Now, it's one of them where in the last 2 years, I have made almost like it was like an unspoken decision internally. Do you know what? After my last season last year, I'd said years back, I was like, you know what? 26 will be the age where I'll compete again. After that, I'm going on. And the closer I got to it, I thought, you don't want to do this. You do not want to do this. You're not driven to go on the enhanced side, and that's fine. And again, it's fine for the people that go on the enhanced side. There are goals that probably require that, at its extreme in bodybuilding. We all know, especially the IFBB side of things, it's that the guys and girls are huge. It's another level. I have grown massively as a natural lifter, mentally and physically. And I've loved it the more I've been a part of it. And over the last 2 years, I've really wanted to, especially with the way I talk to people, the conversations I have, the things I'm doing, my following's growing. I'm starting to speak to more people in this world, meet more people through competing. I love it. Everything about natural competing and what goes into it, the condition people get into, the journeys that they take, and all of these habits that you form after. I cannot tell you that I am such a better person each prep. After coming out of prep, I'm such a better person. I've told this to Abby, who she's competing, she's doing her season. I say it to anyone. It might turn you off of it. Maybe you will, but if it doesn't, you'll come out the other side and you'll be like, I like the person I am now. I love the new habits I've got. I love the routines I've got. I like me. And I love going through that. But I just want to leave a legacy in natural bodybuilding. I really do. Whether that's a legacy of helping people, coaching, competing, talking, doing this, bringing things to life, getting into judging, who knows, forming a new federation one day, who knows? There's so many different avenues you can go down in it. And I want to be a part of this big growing period of it because I think it's about to blow up, really. I really do. So it hasn't always been my passion to be a natural lifter. And it wasn't always my passion to be an enhanced lifter. I thought I was going to go to that side. I thought I felt down that route of being like, yeah, stuff it. I'm going to try it. Why not? And then I grew out of that idea. I thankfully had a supporting partner who said, do what you want to do. If it's the decision that takes you to where you want to be, go for it. I decided not to. 27 now, probably still could. Don't want to. I really don't. I'm happy with my decision. I want to be the best natural bodybuilder I can be, inspire others, and I want to leave a legacy in this area. So that's it, simply. That's pretty much it. Yeah, so that's the Q&A episode. So they are all the questions. It's been pretty much an hour, so I might just let this one run, let people listen to it in one go. and have their little takeaways from it. Hopefully you've learned a bit more about me through these questions. Brilliant questions, by the way, everyone that submitted them. I'm going to do another one of these soon with Abby, I think, to do a Q&A one about us, and then just have her on in general. I've got a couple of ideas about getting some girls on as well to do a bit more of like a female takeover, where Abby can lead the podcast with some individuals as well, but we'll see if that happens. So yeah, plenty of things coming up. I hope that's been an insightful episode for everyone. And again, as I always say with the podcast, I'm doing this to be raw and genuine to the camera, open up and show you that it can be done. And these conversations are very important. So let's continue this trend. The Spotter is about spotting others inside and outside. I can't even get my words out now. Inside and outside of the gym. And taking that to a new meaning. You know, we want to try and reach as many people as possible. Show that talking is a superpower, conversations help, and that, you know, through these we start to unravel things that perhaps we've been, you know, holding in for so many years, and actually it helps to, you know, bring them out. So, as always, if you want to be on the podcast, please do get in touch. Send me a DM. It's probably the easiest way to do it on Instagram. So send me a DM. We can get things scheduled in. I'm always open to any conversation. Just there are some rules we need to go through. If there are people you want me to try and get on the podcast as well, let me know. Always happy to try. If not, please stay tuned for the next one. I hope you've enjoyed it. And let me know if you've got any comments about this one. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care, everyone.